Hey guys, tonight we are traveling back in time and up in altitude. Way up. We are heading to the 15th century Andean highlands, into the heart of the sprawling Inca Empire. Forget parenting blogs and expert advice on sleep schedules, because we are going to explore how an entire civilization raised its children collectively. You are not just a baby in a family. You are the newest member of a massive, communal project. And frankly, with a thin air and no modern medicine, you might not have even survived your first day. So let us appreciate the fact that in this story, you will. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It helps the channel find other people like you, who enjoy drifting off to the strange and fascinating corners of the past. Also, I would love to know where you are listening from. Go ahead and leave a comment with your city and what time it is for you right now. It is always a little magical to see our community scattered all across the night. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background, and let us ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you register is the cold. It is not a biting, aggressive cold, but a thin, persistent chill that seems to be woven into the very air you are breathing. Your first breaths are a struggle, a gasp against an atmosphere that feels less generous than it should. You are wrapped tightly, but the fabric against your skin is not soft fleece. It is a coarse, hand-spun wool, smelling faintly of animal, earth, and smoke. Your vision is a blur of moving shapes and deep shadows. You are inside a small, sturdy hut made of fieldstone and mud, with a thick thatched roof above you. There are no windows, just a single, low doorway. The only light comes from a small, smoldering fire in the center of the room, casting a warm, flickering glow on the stone walls and the face that hovers above you. This is your mother. Her hair is long, black, and parted down the middle. Her face is weathered by the sun and wind. Her expression not one of doting adoration, but of calm, practical assessment. She looks you over, checking your limbs, your breathing. There are no cooing sounds, no celebratory cheers. Your arrival is a quiet, profound, and deeply normal event. Another mouth to feed, another pair of hands for the future. Soon, other faces appear, peering down at you. An older woman with eyes that hold the wisdom of seasons. A man whose hands are calloused and stained with soil. A few curious children who poke at your swaddling with a mixture of awe and nonchalance. These are not just neighbors. They are your Ayllu. This is the most important word you will ever learn, though you will not understand it for years. The Ayllu is your entire world. It is a community of families, all related by blood or marriage, who live and work together on a shared piece of land. They are your aunts, uncles, cousins, and a dozen other relations that modern language has no simple words for. They are your collective parents, your future teachers, and your lifelong safety net. Your birth is not just your parents' business. It is a community event. You belong to all of them. Your mother, having ensured you are alive and whole, does not get much time to rest. There is no concept of maternity leave here. The potatoes need harvesting, the llamas need tending, and the endless, rhythmic work of survival calls to her. So what happens to you? A helpless newborn. She carries you over to a spot on the hut's packed earth floor. There, a shallow, smooth-sided hole has been dug into the dirt, just big enough for you. It is a sort of natural playpen. She places you inside, nestled in your blankets. The cool earth grounds you, and the confined space keeps you safe from being crawled on or accidentally kicked. This is a common practice, a wonderfully simple solution for a busy mother. It keeps the baby secure, freeing up her hands for weaving or preparing food. You lie there, a tiny human planted in the soil, already connected to the Pachama, the Mother Earth, who sustains your people. As you drift in and out of a newborn's sleep, the life of the Ayllu hums around you. You hear the soft thud of a loom, the gentle grinding of corn on a stone, the low murmur of conversations in Quechua. People come and go, glancing down at you in your earthen crib, but their focus is on their tasks. This is not neglect. It is a different way of being. Your individual needs are important, but they are seamlessly integrated into the larger needs of the group. Historians and anthropologists still debate the emotional texture of this life. Was this upbringing emotionally distant? A purely utilitarian approach to child rearing driven by the harsh realities of mountain life? Or was it a world filled with a different kind of warmth? A communal love so vast and distributed that the intense, focused affection of a modern nuclear family would seem, by comparison, almost near. The truth is likely somewhere in between, a complex tapestry of practicality and deep, unspoken connection. For now, you just know the feeling of the cool earth beneath you and the steady, comforting rhythm of your community at work. You are safe. You are one of many. And your journey has just begun. The world returns to you not as a gentle hum, but as a sudden, shocking jolt of cold. One of the women, perhaps your mother, perhaps an aunt, it is hard to tell, lifts you from your warm, earthen nest. For a moment, you are suspended in the thin, chilly air, and then you are submerged. The water is not lukewarm. It is bracingly cold, fetched directly from a nearby mountain stream. It is a gasp-inducing shock that seems to sear the air from your tiny lungs. This is your first bath, and it will not be your last. This is not a lapse in judgment or a lack of care. It is a deliberate, foundational part of your education. The Incas believed that coddling a child made them weak, crybabies unfit for the harsh beauty of the Andes. A daily bath in cold water was meant to do the opposite, to build resilience, to harden your body and spirit from day one. It is a baptism not of faith, but of fortitude. Each icy plunge is a lesson, teaching your very cells that the world is demanding, and you must be strong enough to meet it. So while you might be wailing, the adults around you are calm. They are giving you a gift, the gift of toughness. After the bath, you are wrapped up again, but not in a fluffy towel. The cloth is the same coarse, than dyed llama or alpaca wool as before. It is practical, it is warm enough, and it is what they have. Your swaddling is an art form in itself. You are wrapped tightly, your legs straight, your body snug. This is not just for warmth, it is for convenience. A tightly swaddled baby is a portable, manageable package. But here is a curious detail that often gets lost in translation. While your body is snug, your arms are often left free. This was not an oversight. The belief was that leaving your hands unbound allowed you to self-soothe by touching your face or sucking on your fingers. A small but significant nod to a baby's innate needs. Now, about affection. In your modern, 21st century mind, you might be waiting for the hugs, the kisses, the cooing. You will be waiting a very long time. Your mother and father will rarely, if ever, pick you up just for a cuddle. They will not rock you to sleep. They will not spend hours gazing into your eyes. This particular brand of parental love is a foreign concept. When the Spanish conquistadors and priests arrived, they wrote with a kind of horrified fascination about this practice. They saw it as evidence of a cold, unfeeling people. They documented how mothers would leave their babies in their earthen holes for hours, or how they would breastfeed without even looking at the child. This is one of those moments where history is a giant, cultural misunderstanding. The historical debate here is fierce. Were the Spanish chroniclers correct in their assessment, or were they simply applying their own cultural lens to a society they did not understand? Many modern historians and anthropologists argue for the latter. They suggest that love and care in the Inca world were expressed not through physical affection, but through action and provision. Your mother's love is in the speed and skill with which she weaves the cloth that keeps you warm. Your father's love is in the sweat on his brow as he terraces a steep mountainside to grow the potatoes that will feed you. The community's love is in the fact that you are never truly alone, that a dozen pairs of eyes are passively watching over you. Affection is a verb, a deed. It is ensuring your survival and your place in the Ayllu. To them, spending hours cuddling a baby when there was vital work to be done might have seemed like a bizarre and dangerous form of negligence. So your days pass in a simple rhythm. You are either in your dirt floor playpen, watching the legs of people as they move about the hut, or you are on your mother's bed. When she goes to the fields, you go with her. She straps you to her back using a large, rectangular cloth called a manta. Tucked in securely, you bob along with the rhythm of her work, your face peeking out over her shoulder. You see the world from this moving vantage point. You see the vast, terraced fields climbing the mountains like giant green stairs. You see the stoic, furry faces of llamas. You hear the constant chatter of your people, a language that will soon become your own. When you are hungry, your mother might lean against a stone wall, shifting you to her side to nurse you, her hands often still busy with a spindle, twisting wool into thread. The feeding is efficient, a task to be completed. Once you are sated, you are swung back onto her back, and the work continues. You are not the center of her world. You are a part of her world, seamlessly integrated into its patterns and its flavor. You are not being raised to be an individual who needs constant attention, but a component of a larger, functioning whole. And in this world, that is the most loving thing your parents can do for you. As you grow, your world remains a small, predictable loop. The earthen pit, your mother's bed, the cool shock of your morning bath. You are becoming a part of the hut's furniture, a familiar presence, but you are still somewhat anonymous. You do not have a real name yet. You might be called baby or little one, or perhaps a simple, descriptive term, but nothing is permanent. That is because your survival, well hoped for, is not yet a certainty. In a world without vaccines or antibiotics, the first year or two are a precarious balancing act. To give you a formal name too early would be to tempt fate. But then, a day comes when you have crossed an invisible threshold. You are around 2 years old now. You are a toddler, a sturdy little being who has proven your resilience. You have survived the cold baths, the coarse food, and the common ailments. It is time for you to be formally welcomed into the Ayllu. It is time for your first major life event, a ceremony known as the Rutakuchiki. This literally translates to the hair cutting. Preparations begin quietly. Your parents select a principal godfather, or sponsor, for the ceremony. This is a person of importance and respect within the community, not chosen for their wealth, but for their character and wisdom. This role is a great honor, and the person chosen becomes a lifelong figure in your life, a sort of secondary parent who will offer guidance and support. It is another layer in the intricate social safety net of the Ayllu. On the day of the Rutakushiki, the hut is filled with people. All your relatives, which is to say, most of the village, are gathered. There is a festive air, a low hum of anticipation. You are the center of attention, perhaps for the first time in your life. You are likely a bit bewildered by it all, clinging to your mother's legs as unfamiliar faces smile down at you. A special blanket is laid on the floor, and you are seated upon it. The godfather approaches first. He holds a simple cutting tool, perhaps a sharpened piece of obsidian or a small bronze knife. With great solemnity, he kneels before you. He speaks your family's name and makes a small prayer offering of good wishes for your future. Then, he carefully takes a single lock of your hair, which has been growing untouched since birth, and cuts it. As he snips the lock, he also gives you a gift. It is not a toy. It is something practical, a small piece of fine cloth, a miniature tool, or perhaps a young animal like a guinea pig. This gift is a symbol of the prosperity he wishes for you. He places the lock of hair and the gift beside you on the blanket. Then, one by one, every other member of the family, from the oldest great-uncle to your slightly older cousins, comes forward to do the same. Each person cuts a small piece of your hair, offers a blessing, and leaves a gift. The pile of hair and gifts grows. The gifts are rarely lavish, but they represent a collective investment in your future. It is like a community-funded trust, started on your second birthday. A weird, historical tidbit here is that the cut hair was considered extremely precious. It was carefully collected and stored, as it was believed to contain a part of your life force. Finally, after everyone has had their turn, you are left with a new, somewhat patchy hair cut into a small mountain of symbolic wealth. The most important part of the ceremony is yet to come. The Godfather, in consultation with your parents, officially gives you your name. This is not your final, permanent name, but a temporary one you will carry throughout your childhood. It might be descriptive, like Hawk or Inca if you have sharp eyes, or Stone or Rumi if you are strong. Or it could be an ancestral name, connecting you to your lineage. The name giving is followed by a feast. The whole community shares food and chicha, a fermented corn beer. There is music and dancing. It is a celebration of you, yes, but it is more a celebration of the community's continuity. You have officially made it. You are no longer just a baby. You are a named individual, a recognized member of the Ayllu. Historians are still somewhat fuzzy on the exact details of this ceremony across the vast Inca Empire. Did it vary significantly from the coast to the highlands? Was the role of the Godfather always the same? The Spanish chroniclers who recorded these events often painted them with a broad brush, and piecing together the regional variations remains a challenge. Some accounts suggest the gifts were given to the parents to help with the cost of raising the child, while others insist they were the child's personal property. For you, sitting amidst the celebration, none of that matters. What you understand is a profound sense of belonging. Dozens of people have just participated in a ritual centered on you. They have touched your hair, spoken your new name, and offered you a piece of their own resources. You are woven into the fabric of this community in a way that is now tangible and official. Your temporary name is a label, a handle for the world to grasp you by. From now on, when someone calls out Little Puma, you will know they mean you, and you will begin to learn what it means to answer that call. Now that you have a name, you begin to understand the true scale of your home. Your home is not the small, one-room stone hut where you sleep. That is just a shelter. Your real home is the entire territory of your Ayllu. It is a sprawling, vertical world of terraced fields, grazing pastures high in the mountains, and the collection of huts that make up your village. And this home is run by a committee of people who all feel they have a say in your life. You start to wonder. Your mother does not keep you tethered to her side anymore. As soon as you can walk steadily, you are given a new level of freedom that would seem shocking to a modern parent. You toddle out of your hut slowly and into the central plaza of the village. Here, other children of various ages are playing, working, or just sitting in the sun. Older women sit together, their hands a blur of motion as they spin wool or sort quinoa, their eyes missing nothing. Imagine this. You stumble and fall, scraping your knee on the hard-packed earth. You let out a wail, expecting your mother to come running. But she does not. She might be 100 yards away, weeding a potato patch. Instead, the nearest woman, an aunt, a great-aunt, a cousin's mother, looks over. She does not rush to you. She watches. If you are truly hurt, bleeding, or in serious distress, she will calmly get up and attend to you. But if you are just crying from the shock and a little bit of pain, she will likely just call out something like, "Get up, little Puma." The ground is for working, not for crying. It is a tough love environment on a massive scale. Every adult in the Ayllu is a potential disciplinarian and caregiver. If you wander too close to a dangerous drop-off, a passing uncle will grab you by the arm and pull you back, probably with a stern word. If you try to snatch a piece of roasted corn from another child, a nearby grandmother will wrap your knuckles and make you give it back. There is no concept of it is not my place to say something. Your upbringing is everyone's place. It is a shared responsibility, and therefore, a shared authority. This system is built on an economic and social reality. The Ayllu collectively owned the land, but it was granted to them by the Sapa Inca, the emperor. In return, the Ayllu had to pay taxes, not in money, but in labor, the Mita, and in goods. To meet these quotas, everyone had to be productive. A mother who spent all day doting on one child was a mother who was not weaving cloth for the state or growing food for the communal storehouse. Collective parenting was not just a philosophy, it was an economic necessity. It freed up adults to perform the specialized labor required to keep the empire running. Here is a fascinating, and slightly funny, consequence of this system. Children learn it very quickly not to be a nuisance. Since any adult could discipline you, you learn it to be self-reliant and community-minded from a very young age. You learn it to share because if you did not, an older, bigger kid, or their mother, would make you. You learned it not to whine because it got you nowhere. The community was a constant, gentle, and firm force, shaping you into a productive and well-behaved member of the group. The exact power dynamics within the Ayllu, you are something historians still piece together. While in theory it was a collective, it was not a pure democracy. A council of elders, led by a local leader called a Ayllu, made the important decisions. How much say did the average woman have in community-wide decisions? The Spanish, writing from their own deeply patriarchal worldview, tended to focus on the male leaders, likely underreporting the influence of women, especially the elder matriarchs who managed the households and the intricate social fabric. It is a classic case of the historical record being filtered through the bias of its authors. As you grow bolder, your explorations take you further. You follow the older children as they go to check on the guinea pigs, which are raised in the dark corners of the huts for food. You watch them as they mend a fence or carry water from the communal well. You are a little shadow, absorbing everything. You are not being explicitly taught yet, but you are learning constantly. You are learning the layout of your land, the faces of your people, and the unwritten rules of your society. You learn that food is not to be wasted, ever. You learn that tools are to be respected and put back where they belong. And you learn that the well-being of the group always comes before your own fleeting desires. If you are hungry but the food is not ready for everyone, you wait. If you are tired but there is still work to be done, you keep going. This is not presented as a harsh sacrifice. It is just the way things are, as natural and unquestioned as the rising of the sun over the mountain peaks. Your community is your home, and your primary lesson is how to live in it harmoniously. The day your mother stops nursing you is not marked by any ceremony, but it is a monumental shift in your young life. It happens around the same time as your Rutakushiki ceremony, around the age of 2. The transition is abrupt. One day, the comfort of nursing is there. The next, it is gone. There is no gradual weaning, no gentle replacement with other forms of comfort. The Inca approach to milestones was, to put it mildly, unsentimental. You were now old enough for solid food, so the old way of feeding simply ceased. You are now expected to eat what the adults eat. There is no such thing as baby food. No one is mashing potatoes for you or softening vegetables. You are handed a piece of whatever the family is having. This might be a roasted potato, its skin crispy from the fire. It might be a handful of kanja, which are large, toasted corn kernels, like a primitive and threatening version of popcorn. Or it could be a small bowl of quinoa stew, thick and hearty. You learn to chill, to manage tough textures, and to feed yourself. If you struggle, An older sibling might impatiently shove the food in your mouth, but no one is going to sit and patiently coax you to eat. Hunger is expected to be its own motivation. This diet, while monotonous by modern standards, was incredibly nutritious. Potatoes, which came in hundreds of varieties, formed the staple, providing carbohydrates and vitamins. Quinoa, the mother grain, was a complete protein. Corn, beans, and squash rounded out the diet. Meat was a rarity, usually reserved for festivals, the most common source being the guinea pigs, CUI, that skittered around the floor of every hut. You learn to see these furry creatures not as pets, but as a future meal. Around the same time you are weaned, another crucial expectation is placed upon you. You must work, and you must do it alone. The Inca method for teaching this was, again, based on a hands-off philosophy. There was no holding your hands and guiding your first wobbly steps. No one cheered you on or hovered anxiously to catch you if you fell. Instead, you were often left to your own devices in the dirt floor playpen. When you showed signs of trying to pull yourself up, you were simply moved out of the hole and placed on the floor. It was up to you to figure out the mechanics of balancing onto feet. You would pull yourself up on the stone walls of the hut, on the leg of a sleeping parent, on anything you could find. You would stumble, fall, and get up again. The adults believed that this struggle was essential. It built not only physical strength in your legs, but also mental strength, determination, and self-reliance. A child who learned to walk on their own was a child who understood from a primal level how to overcome challenges without expecting help. This sink or swim approach to motor skills is striking to the modern mind. A little-known fact is that some early chroniclers noted that if a child was a particularly late walker, they might be encouraged with a bit of folk magic or simple rituals, but physical intervention was still minimal. The belief in a child's innate ability to develop on their own schedule, or be hardened by the attempt, was paramount. The debate among historians here often centers on the why. Was this philosophy born purely from the practical need for adults to be free to work? Or was it a deeply held cultural belief about the nature of human development? Most scholars now agree it was a combination of both. The practicality and the philosophy reinforced each other in a perfect loop. A culture that needs its adults to be constantly working will naturally develop a belief system that values independence and self-sufficiency in its children. It is a beautifully efficient, if somewhat harsh, system. So, you master walking. Your world expands exponentially. You can now leave the hut on your own 2 feet. You can follow the bigger kids, trailing behind them as they go about their chores. You are no longer a passive observer on your mother's back, but an active, if clumsy, participant in the life of the Ayllu. You learn the terrain quickly. You learn which stones are loose, where the ground is muddy, and how to navigate the narrow paths between the terraced fields. Your bare feet become tough and calloused, able to grip the earth. You are weaned not only from your mother's milk, but from infancy itself. You are now a small, mobile unit of the community, expected to feed yourself and transport yourself. You have been given the tools of basic autonomy, and as you will soon discover, the moment you can use them, the community will find a way to put them to work. You have mastered walking. You can feed yourself a handful of toasted corn without choking, and you understand enough of the Quechua words being thrown around to know when you are in the way. By the standards of your community, you are no longer a baby. You are a resource. It is time for you to get your first job. You are probably around 5 years old now, an age where modern children are just starting kindergarten. Your formal education, however, will not involve classrooms or books. Your school is the fields, the pastures, and the village itself. And your first assignment is one of critical importance to the Ayllu's food supply. You are to be a scarecrow, but a mobile, noisy one. An older child or a parent leads you to one of the vast, terraced fields of maize or quinoa. The plants are young and vulnerable. and the birds of the Andes, sparrows, finches, and other grain-loving creatures, are a constant threat. Your job is simple in concept, but requires constant vigilance. You, along with a handful of other small children, are tasked with protecting this field. You are given a simple tool for the job, a sling, not the kind for hunting, but a noisemaker. You might also have a rattle made from gourds filled with pebbles, or you might just use your own voice. All day long, you patrol the edges of the field. The moment you see a flock of birds descending, you spring into action. You shout, you wave your arms, you whirl your sling to make a whirring sound, and you run towards them, but tiny, shrieking guardian of the harvest. It is a game, in a way. You chase the birds, they fly away, and you feel a sense of triumph. But it is a game with very real stakes. A field stripped by birds could mean the difference between a full communal storehouse and a hungry winter. Your small contribution matters. The adults do not praise you lavishly for it. They do not say, "Good job, sweetie." Instead, they show their approval in a more practical way, by giving you this responsibility. Trusting you with a piece of the community as survival is the highest form of praise. You are not alone out there. There are other children your age, and slightly older ones who act as informal supervisors. They teach you the best ways to make noise, how to spot the birds before they land, and how to work together to cover the entire field. It is your first lesson in coordinated labor. You learn that if you slack off and sit in the shade, the birds will attack your section, and an older kid will surely come and scold you. You are accountable. This practice of giving children real work from a young age was codified by the Inca state. The empire was obsessed with order and census taking. They divided a person's life into stages, or scales, based on age and ability. A fascinating and oddly specific detail is that census takers categorized people into more than 10 age grades. The first productive stage, for children roughly aged 5 to 9, was literally defined by tasks like this. Light work, such as scaring birds, gathering wild plants and firewood, and helping with simple household chores. You were not just a kid. You were a specific category of citizen with defined duties. Historians debate how rigid this state-defined system was in practice. Did every single 5-year-old in the empire perform these exact tasks? Or was it more of an ideal recorded by bureaucrats in the capital city of Cusco? The consensus is that while the official categories existed, the day-to-day reality was probably more fluid, dictated by the immediate needs of each individual Ayllu. If a community's main livelihood was fishing, a 5-year-old's first job would be mending nets or gathering shells, not chasing birds. The principle, however, remained the same. From the moment you are able, you contribute. As the sun climbs high in the sky, a parent or older sibling might bring you your midday meal, a woven pouch with some cold potatoes and toasted fava beans. You eat your lunch right there in the field, your eyes still scanning the skies. You are learning another fundamental lesson. Work and life are not separate things. There is no work-life balance. There is just life, and life is work. By the end of the day, you are tired. Your throat is hoarse from shouting, and your legs ache from running. You trudge back to your family's hut as the sun sets behind the colossal peaks of the Andes. You curl up on your sleeping mat on the floor, the smell of wood smoke and guinea pigs filling the small space. You do not need a bedtime story or a lullaby to fall asleep. The physical exhaustion of a day filled with purposeful work is the only sedative you need. You have earned your rest. You have pulled your weight. And tomorrow, you will do it all again. As you grow out of your role as a human scarecrow, you graduate to more complex tasks. But your primary teachers are not your parents. Your parents are busy with the heavy duty, skilled labor of the Ayllu. Your father in the fields with the foot plow. Your mother at her loom creating intricate textiles. Their time is too valuable for basic instruction. Instead, your daily life is largely managed and dictated by your older siblings and cousins. In the Inca world, there was a clear and powerful hierarchy among children. The older ones were responsible for the younger ones. This was not a casual, "Can you watch your little brother for a minute?" arrangement. It was a fundamental pillar of their social structure. An older sibling was, for all intents and purposes, your boss, your teacher, and your guardian. Let us say you are now 7 years old. Your 5-year-old sister is just starting her scarecrow duties. It is now your job to take her to the fields, to show her how to whirl the sling, and to make sure she does not wander off. You are responsible for her. If she fails at her task, you are the one who gets the scolding from a passing adult. This delegation of responsibility cascaded downwards. A 12-year-old was in charge of the 9-year-olds, who were in charge of the 7-year-olds, and so on. This system was remarkably efficient. It freed up the adults for the most productive work, and it trained the older children in leadership, responsibility, and patience. It also meant that you spent most of your waking hours not with adults, but with a pack of other kids, a roving band of siblings and cousins navigating their collective duties. Your older brother, who might be 10, is now your primary instructor. His own tasks are becoming more adult-like. He is learning to help your father mend tools, or he is trusted to take a small herd of llamas to a nearby pasture. You are his apprentice. You tag along, and your job is to watch and help in small ways. He might task you with gathering the right kind of stones for a new fence, or holding a llama's rope while he adjusts its load. The teaching style is direct and hands-on. There are no lengthy explanations. Your brother does not sit you down and say, "Now, this is why we use this particular knot." He just ties the knot and says, "Do it like this." You learn by imitation. You watch his hands. You try to copy the movements, and you fail. He might sigh with exasperation, roughly push your hands out of the way, and do it again. No, like this. You learn through trial and error, with a healthy dose of sibling impatience. This sibling-led education extended to every aspect of life. An older sister taught you how to spin wool into thread with a hand spindle, a tool that was almost constantly in the hands of Inca women and girls. She would show you how to tease the fibers, how to twist the spindle, how to keep the thread from breaking. She would also teach you the more domestic chores, how to grind maize into flour, how to tend the fire, how to prepare a simple stew. A weirdly specific tidbit from some chronicles is that this sibling authority was so absolute that a younger child would rarely dare to complain about an older sibling to their parents. The parents would almost always side with the older child, on the principle that they had been given the responsibility and therefore must be trusted. Arguing with your older brother was as pointless as arguing with a supervising adult. Of course, this raises questions for historians about the emotional dynamics of such families. Did this system create resentment between siblings? Or did it foster an incredibly strong, lifelong bond based on shared responsibility and mutual reliance? The truth, as always, is probably complex and varied from family to family. There were likely moments of real tenderness and teaching, and moments of bullying and frustration, just as in any sibling relationship. The difference was that in the Inca world, this dynamic was the primary engine of your education and socialization. You learn not just skills, but also the culture of the Ayllu. It is your older siblings who tell you which spirits live in which rocks, which streams are sacred, and what offerings to leave for the pajama. They pass on the stories and myths they heard from their own older siblings, a chain of oral tradition stretching back generations. This whole system reinforces the core values of the Inca world: hierarchy, duty, and practical competence. You learn your place in the social order very early on. You learn that you are accountable to those above you and responsible for those below you. You learn that your worth is measured by what you can do, not by what you feel or say. Your parents provided you with life and sustenance. but it is your brothers and sisters who are forging you, day by day, into a functional member of the Inca world, one impatient lesson at a time. As you navigate this childhood of responsibility and work, one thing is conspicuously absent: toys. You do not have dolls, carved animals, or miniature plates. The concept of an object created purely for amusement is largely foreign to the world of a common Inca child. Your playtime and your work time are not separate categories. They are deeply intertwined. Your games are, in essence, practice for your future life. The boys might gather to see who can throw a stone the farthest and most accurately with a sling. This is not just a game of skill. It is training for hunting and, for some, for warfare. The accuracy you develop as a child throwing pebbles at a target could one day be used to bring down a bird for dinner or to defend your community. The line between play and training is blurry to the point of being non-existent. Girls, meanwhile, might have a contest to see who can spin the finest, strongest thread from a tuft of wool. They would compare their work, getting tips from the older girls on how to improve. This game is a direct rehearsal for their primary economic and social role. A woman's skill in weaving was a measure of her worth, her discipline, and her contribution to the family and the state. The intricate patterns she would one day weave held deep symbolic meaning, and the cloth itself was a form of wealth, used for everything from clothing to religious offerings to paying taxes. Starting this training as a game made the acquisition of this vital skill feel natural and competitive. You and your friends might play at building things. You will gather stones and mud to construct miniature huts or tiny agricultural terraces on a hillside. This is immense fun, a chance to get your hands dirty and create something. But it is also an education in engineering and architecture. You learn instinctively which stones fit together best, how to build a stable wall, and how to shape the land to make it productive. You are learning the fundamental principles that allowed your ancestors to build the vast and sophisticated structures you see all around you, from the storehouses in your village to the mighty temples in Cusco. One of the few objects that might resemble a toy is a simple top, made from a pierced gourd or a piece of wood. A surprisingly universal plaything. Children would compete to see whose top could spin the longest. But even this simple amusement had a practical edge. It developed manual dexterity and a sense of focused competition. Archaeologists have found some small, crudely made ceramic figures in Inca settlements that could be interpreted as dolls or animal figurines. This is where a fascinating historical debate lies. Were these objects toys for children, or were they ritual objects, perhaps offerings or items used in household shrines? The context in which they are found is often ambiguous. A small Momo figurine found in the ruins of a house could have been a child's plaything, or it could have been a sacred object used in a ritual to ensure the health of the family's herd. Without a written record from a commoner's perspective, historians are left to speculate, weighing the evidence and acknowledging that the two functions are not mutually exclusive. It might have been both. The lack of traditional toys forced you to be incredibly resourceful and imaginative. A curiously shaped truck could become a llama in a pretend herd. A collection of colorful beans could become soldiers in a mock battle. The world itself was your toy box. This kind of play fostered a deep connection with your natural environment. You knew the properties of different kinds of wood, the texture of various glaze, and the shapes of the stones in your riverbed, because you used them every day in your self-directed play. This approach to childhood stands in stark contrast to the modern idea of a childhood filled with educational toys designed to stimulate specific cognitive skills. The Inca system was, in its own way, a highly effective educational program. It did not need plastic blocks to teach engineering or puzzles to teach problem solving. It taught these things by giving children real-world materials and real-world problems, and framing the solutions as play. So, your childhood is not one of idleness or fantasy in the modern sense. It is a busy, purposeful, and deeply practical apprenticeship for adulthood. The fun you have is in the mastery of skills, in the friendly competition with your peers, and in the growing sense of competence you feel as you learn to manipulate your environment. You do not need toys because your entire world is an interactive, educational playset, and the games you play are getting you ready for the serious business of being a grown-up in the Inca Empire. As dusk settles over the mountains, the air grows cold quickly. The day's work is done. The flocks have been brought into their stone corrals. The tools have been put away, and the evening meal, a simple, hearty stew, has been eaten. This is a time of quiet, a time when the community gathers, not for entertainment, but for connection. The fire in the center of your hut, or a larger communal bonfire in the village plaza, becomes the focal point of the evening. You huddle close to the flames, feeling their warmth seep into your bones, pushing back the high-altitude chill. The firelight dances across the weathered faces of the elders, making their wrinkles seem like deep ravines of wisdom. There is no television, no radio, no books to read. The entertainment and the history lesson are one and the same, and they come from the mouths of the old ones. An elder, perhaps your grandfather or a respected community leader, begins to speak. His voice is low and raspy, but he carries a weight of authority that commands silence. The children, who were just moments ago fidgeting and whispering, fall still. You listen, completely captivated. He is not just telling a story. He is weaving the fabric of your reality. He speaks of the beginning of time, when the world was dark. He tells you about the great creator god, Viracocha, who rose from Lake Titicaca. He sculpted giants from stone, but they were clumsy and disobedient, so he destroyed them in a great flood. Then, he tried again, this time shaping smaller, better figures from clay, your ancestors. He painted them with the clothes and hairstyles of all the different peoples of the Andes, gave them their languages and their songs, and then breathed life into them, sending them out into the world from caves and springs, the sacred origin points, or Pacarines, of Iche el Ayllu. You learn that Chirone el Ayllu has a Pacarina, a specific cave or rock formation nearby, from which your first ancestors emerged. This is not just a myth to you, it is a geographical fact. It ties your people directly to the land you inhabit, making you a literal child of this earth. Then the storyteller's voice shifts, and he speaks of the most important deity, Inti, the sun god. He is the father of the Inca royal line. The first Inca, Manco Capac, and his sister wife, Mama Ayllu, were sent to earth by their father, Inti. They emerged from the island of the sun in Lake Titicaca, carrying a golden staff. Inti told them to travel until they found a place where the staff would sink effortlessly into the ground. That place, the elder tells you, was Cusco. And there, they founded the great Inca Empire, the Tawantinsuyu, the land of the four quarters. As you listen, you look at the stones that form the walls of your hut, the mountains that cradle your village. The story makes them come alive. They are not just inert objects. They are witnesses to these epic events. This is a key part of Inca cosmology. The landscape is sacred and sentient. A strange-looking rock is not just a rock. It could be a mythical warrior turned to stone. But okay, a sacred object pulsating with divine energy. A little-known aspect of this old tradition is its incredible precision, which was necessary for a civilization without writing. The storytellers, or Amayutias, in the elite circles of Cusco, were trained to memorize vast amounts of information, genealogies, historical events, laws, and myths. They used mnemonic devices, like epic poems and songs, to ensure accuracy. While your village elder might not be a formally trained immortal, he is part of this tradition. The stories he tells tonight are the same stories his grandfather told him, passed down through generations. Of course, historians face a great challenge here. How much of these stories is myth, and how much is a stylized version of actual history? The story of Manco Capac and the Golden Staff is almost certainly a foundational myth, designed to legitimize the Inca rule over other Andean peoples. But embedded within these myths, there might be kernels of truth about migrations, conflicts, and the founding of early settlements. Separating the historical fact from the mythological gloss is one of the great puzzles for scholars of the Inca, a task made harder because all our written sources come from the Spanish, who heard these stories secondhand and interpreted them through their own religious and cultural filters. The elder's story ends. The fire has burned down to glowing embers. No one applauds. There is just a shared, respectful silence. The stories are not for entertainment. They are for orientation. They tell you who you are, where you come from, and what your place is in the cosmos. You are a child of the clay figures shaped by Viracocha, a subject of the descendants of Inti the sun god, and a steward of the sacred land where your ancestors emerged. You crawl to your sleeping place on the floor, your mind filled with images of gods, golden staffs, and stone giants. The world is not a random collection of things. It is a story, and you are a character in it. This is your education and history, religion, and identity, all delivered by the flickering light of a fire. Your world is not just populated by people and spirits. It is also filled with the quiet, dignified presence of animals that are more than just livestock. They are your community as well. Its lifeblood, and in a way, your colleagues. These are the camelids of the Andes, the strong, dependable llamas and the soft, precious alpacas. From a very young age, you are taught to interact with them. You are now perhaps 8 or 9 years old, and your responsibilities have grown. One of your regular chores is to accompany an older sibling or a young adult to take the Ayllu herd to graze. You leave the village in the cool morning air, guiding the animals up the steep mountain paths to the high-altitude grasslands, the puna. The llamas are the pickup trucks of the Inca world. They are not ridden. Their backs are not strong enough for a person, but they are expert pack animals. You watch as the adults load them with sacks of potatoes from the communal storehouse, bundles of textiles to be taken to a regional center, or blocks of salt traded from a distant community. The llamas are placid, but stubborn. You learn quickly that you cannot force a llama to do anything. If you overload it, it will simply lie down and refuse to move until you lighten its burden. They have a built-in sense of fairness that you have to respect. You learn the soft clucking sounds and gentle gestures used to guide them along the trail. You walk beside them, a small human partner to these tall, slightly goofy-looking creatures with their banana-shaped ears and inquisitive eyes. They have a distinct smell, a dry, dusty, and not unpleasant scent that becomes a permanent part of your world. The alpacas are different. They are smaller, shyer, and valued not for their strength, but for their fleece. Their wool is incredibly fine and warm, reserved for the clothing of the nobility and for the most important religious textiles. Shearing them is a delicate process, done with great care. You might be tasked with helping to corral them during shearing time, your small body useful for blocking gaps in the stone enclosures. You learn to appreciate the different grades of wool, from the coarser fleece of the llama to the silken luxury of the alpaca. The weird and slightly gross fact you learn is the incredible utility of their dung. It is one of the most valuable resources in the high Andes. Wood is scarce at this altitude, so dried llama dung is the primary fuel for your fires. It burns hot and slow, perfect for cooking and for warding off the nightly cold. Part of your job as a young herder is to collect the dried pellets from the pastures and carry them back to the village in a small sack. It is not a glamorous job, but it is essential. You are literally gathering the fuel that will cook your dinner. Beyond their practical uses, these animals hold a sacred place in your culture. You see them depicted in the textiles your mother weaves. You hear them mentioned in the stories the elders tell. There are constellations in the night sky that are seen as celestial llamas. You know that a sacrifice of a pure white or perfect brown llama is one of the highest offerings that can be made to the gods. a way to ensure a good harvest or to appease an angry mountain spirit. The precise history of the domestication of llamas and alpacas is a subject of ongoing research. Archaeologists, using DNA analysis of ancient animal bones, are constantly pushing back the date of their domestication, suggesting a relationship between humans and these animals that stretches back thousands of years before the Inca Empire even existed. The Incas did not invent this partnership. They perfected it, turning herd management into a state-controlled science. The state owned vast herds, and the wool and meat were distributed according to a complex system of courtesan privileges. The herd you are tending for your Ayllu is, in a sense, on loan from the Sepa Inca. As you sit on a rock watching the herd graze under the vast blue sky, you feel a sense of profound peace. The only sounds are the wind whistling through the tough Ayllu grass and the soft chewing of the animals. You are responsible for dozens of creatures, each one a valuable asset to your community. This is not just animal husbandry. It is a form of guardianship. You are protecting your family's living, breathing treasure. You learn their individual personalities. This one is grumpy, that one is curious, another is a natural leader. They are not just a flock, they are individuals. And in this quiet, high-altitude classroom, they are your teachers. They teach you patience, responsibility, and a deep, unspoken respect for the non-human lives that share your world and make your own life possible. If you are a girl, a new and powerful rhythm begins to dominate your life around the age of 5 or 6. It starts with a simple tool, a hand spindle, or pushka. It is a slender stick. We did at one end with a small ceramic or wooden whirl. Your mother or an older sister places it in your hand, along with a tuft of raw alpaca or llama wool. And so begins your initiation into the most sacred and essential art of an Inca woman, weaving. Your first lessons are in spinning. It looks deceptively simple. You draw out a few fibers from the woolly mass, twist them to start a thread, and give the spindle a sharp twist. It drops, spinning like a top, twisting the fibers into a continuous, strong thread. But your first attempts are a clumsy disaster. The thread is lumpy and thick in some places, thin and weak in others. It breaks constantly. You watch your mother, who can do this almost without thinking. She spins while she walks, while she talks, while she watches the cooking pot. Her spindle is a constant, graceful extension of her hand, producing a thread that is perfectly even and strong. Your older sister, with the characteristic impatience of a sibling teacher, shows you again and again. Not so much fiber. Twist it tighter. Keep the spindle straight. It is frustrating work. Your fingers are clumsy. The wool gets tangled. But you persist, because you must. In your world, a woman who cannot spin and weave is not fully a woman. This is not just a domestic craft. It is a form of currency, a language, and a sacred duty. The cloth you will one day create, gold gumbai, is one of the most valued commodities in the empire. It is used to pay taxes to the state. It is given as gifts to seal political alliances. It is burned as a precious offering to the gods. The finest textiles are considered more valuable than gold or silver. An entire economic system rests on the threads you are now struggling to spin. As you master spinning, you graduate to the loom. It is a simple backstrap loom, a collection of smooth wooden rods and strings that you can roll up and carry with you. You tie one end to a post or a tree and the other end is attached to a strap that goes around your lower back. By leaning forward or backward, you control the tension of the warped threads. It is an intimate, physically demanding process. The loom becomes part of your body. You start with simple patterns, just stripes of different colors. You learn how to pass the whiff thread back and forth, how to use a flattened bone tool to pack the threads down tightly, creating a dense, durable fabric. The colors themselves are a lesson in botany and chemistry. You go with the older girls to gather the plants, insects, and minerals that produce the dyes. the communal insect for a brilliant red, the indigo plant for deep blues and purples, various lichens and clays for yellows and browns. You learn the recipes, the modern tests needed to fix the colors, the science passed down through generations of women. A fascinatedly technical detail that still amazes textile experts is the sheer fineness of elite Inca weaving. Some surviving pieces have come by cloth of thread counts of 500 threads per inch or more. That is finer than a modern high-quality linen shirt and approaches the quality of silk. To achieve this with a simple backstrap loom and hand-spun thread required an almost unimaginable level of skill and patience. This is where another historical debate surfaces. The intricate geometric patterns in Inca textiles, called capu, are clearly a form of communication. Each design seems to have a specific meaning. But what, exactly, did they signify? Some scholars argue that the capu was a form of proto-writing, a logographic system that could record names, places, or even historical events. Others believe they were more like a coat of arms, identifying a person's lineage, social rank, or ethnic group. Without a Rosetta Stone for textiles, we are left to admire their beauty while puzzling over their precise meaning. You, as a young girl, are learning this language of thread. You learn the patterns of your Ayllu, the designs that say we are from this place. You learn which patterns are reserved for the nobility, and which are for everyday wear. Weaving is your history book and your social media profile, all woven into one. Your progress is watched and judged by all the women in the community. A girl who is a quick and skilled weaver earns respect. It signals that she is patient, hardworking, and disciplined, all the qualities of a good future wife and a productive member of the Ayllu. Your final exam will be the weaving of your own wedding clothes and a fine shirt for your future husband. So you sit in the sun with your sisters and cousins, your looms stretched out before you. Your hands, once clumsy, are becoming more sure. The rhythm of the loom, the shifting of head or less, the passing of the weft, the packing of the thread, becomes second to nature. You are not just making cloth. You are weaving yourself into the social and cosmic fabric of your world. If you are a boy, your path diverges sharply from your sister's. While she is tethered to the spindle and the loom, you are drawn further out into the fields and the pastures. Your apprenticeship is not in the language of thread, but in the rhythm of the earth. Your primary classroom is the steep, terraced hillside, and your main professor is your father. Your training begins in earnest around the age of 9 or 10. You have already spent years doing lighter work, chasing birds, gathering fuel, herding. Now, you are deemed strong enough to learn the sacred and strenuous work of a farmer. The Inca Empire was, at its core, an agricultural civilization. Its power and stability were built on its ability to grow food in one of the world's most challenging environments. Learning to farm was not just learning a job. It was learning the secret to your people's survival. Your father does not give you lectures on soil composition or crop rotation. He teaches you by putting a tool in your hand. It is a smaller version of the primary agricultural tool of the Andes, the choquetequela, or foot plow. It is a simple, brilliant invention, a long wooden pole with a pointed tip, a handle for one hand, and a footrest near the bottom. It is designed for breaking up the hard soil on steep slopes where a draft animal couldn't possibly work. Your father and the other men of the Ayllu work in teams. They line up along a terrace and, moving in a synchronized rhythm, they drive their foot plows into the earth. They chant and sing as they work, not just to pass the time, but to coordinate their movements. It is a kind of agricultural ballet. With a grunt, they press down on the footrest, levering the pole to break up a clod of earth. The women follow behind, breaking up the clods further and planting the seeds, potatoes, quinoa, or maize. You are given your own small choquetequela and placed at the end of the line. Your job is to copy the men. At first, you are clumsy and out of sync. Your plow does not sink deep enough. You stumble. The men might laugh, But it is not a mean-spirited laugh. It is the laughter of recognition. They were all you. Once, your father might stop, come over, and adjust your stance, showing you how to use your body weight to drive the tip into the soil. This work is brutally hard. The sun is intense at this altitude, and the air is thin. Your muscles ache, but you learn to push through the exhaustion. You are not just tilling a field, you are participating in a sacred act. The land, Pachama, is a living deity. By breaking the soil to plant seeds, you are entering into a partnership with her. You learn to do it with respect, to leave offerings of coca leaves or chicha at the edge of the field, asking for her blessing. You learn the intricate knowledge of a high-altitude farmer. You learn which of the hundreds of potato varieties grows best on which terrace. Some are for the lower, warmer slopes, others for the high, frost-prone fields. A little-known piece of agricultural genius is the Inca practice of creating freeze-dried potatoes, called chino. At night, they would spread the potatoes out to freeze in the frigid mountain air. The next day, they would be trampled by foot to squeeze out the water and then left to dry in the sun. This process, repeated over several days, removed most of the water, creating a lightweight, nutrient-dense food that could be stored for years, an essential buffer against famine. You participate in this process, your small, bare feet helping depress the water from the frozen tubers. The debate among archaeobotanists revolves around the sheer scale and sophistication of this system. How did the Incas manage to develop so many crop varieties, perfectly adapted to different microclimates? It was likely a process of observation and experimentation carried out over centuries, with knowledge passed down from one generation of farmers to the next. The Inca state did not invent this knowledge, but they institutionalized it, creating experimental farms and moving expert farmers to new territories to maximize production. Day by day, season by season, you learn the rhythms of the agricultural calendar. You learn to read the sky for signs of rain. You learn the timing for planting and for harvesting. You learn how to maintain the irrigation channels that bring life-giving water to the terraces. Your hands become calloused, your back strong. You are being shaped by the land itself. This is your destiny. Unless you are chosen for a special role in the empire, this will be your life's work. You will be a farmer, a steward of the earth, a link in the long chain of ancestors who have drawn life from these mountains. Your sister weaves the fabric that clothes your people. You cultivate the food that feeds them. Together, your skills form the backbone of the Inca world. As you grow stronger and more competent in your tasks, you begin to hear a word spoken with a mixture of resignation, duty, and community pride. Mita. You do not fully grasp its meaning at first, but you see its effects all around you. It is the reason your uncle is gone for 2 months to work in a silver mine far to the south. It is the reason a group of men from your village are heading off to help build a massive new temple in Cusco. It is the ever-present obligation that hangs over every able-bodied man in the empire. The Mita was the Inca system of mandatory public service. It was not slavery, and it was not exactly a tax in the modern sense. It was a labor tribute. Every year, each Ayllu was required to send a portion of its male population to work on projects for the state. This could be anything from farming on state-owned lands, to constructing roads and bridges, to serving in the army. The state, in return, would provide the workers with food, lodging, and tools while they were on duty. It was a colossal, empire-wide system of organized labor, and it is how the Incas built their vast and impressive infrastructure. As a boy of 10 or 12, you are not yet subject to the Mita yourself. That will come when you are a married adult. But you are already being prepared for it. The work you do for your Ayllu is a small-scale version of the same principle, contributing your labor for the good of the larger group. You see the men leave, and you see them return, often with new stories and a broader perspective of the empire. Their service is a source of honor. You might get your first taste of this system in a more localized form. Perhaps a nearby royal estate needs a new irrigation canal. The local Inca governor will call upon the surrounding Aylus to provide the workforce. Your father and other men from your village will go, and you might be brought along, not as a primary worker, but as a helper. Your job would be to carry water, to bring tools to the men, or to help prepare their food. Dear, you see the incredible organizing power of the Empire in action. Hundreds of men from different Aylus, speaking slightly different dialects of Quechua, are all working together on a single project. Foremen with knotted cords, the gripas, keep track of the workers and their progress. There is a clear hierarchy and a sense of purpose. You are witnessing, firsthand, how your small community fits into the grand machinery of the state. A fascinating, and somewhat debated, aspect of the Mita is the role of festivity in the work. The Spanish chroniclers, perhaps with some exaggeration, described Mita labor as being accompanied by a great deal of chanting, singing, and drinking of chicha. It was framed not just as a dreary obligation, but as a kind of work party. The state would provide the corn for the chicha, turning the hard labor into a semi-festive, communal event. This was a brilliant piece of social engineering, helping to foster a sense of shared purpose and making the burden of the labor tribute more palatable. Historians argue about the true nature of this festivity. Was it a genuine expression of communal joy in service to the sun god and his son, the Sapa Inca? Or was it a carefully managed to love the state to keep the workforce compliant and productive, a kind of bread and circuses for the masses? The reality is likely a mix of both. For the men doing the back-breaking work of cutting stone or paving roads, the ritual and the chicha probably did make the experience more bearable and socially cohesive. You also learn about the flip side of the Mita, the Mita. This was another of the Inca state's powerful tools for control and integration. Sometimes, the state would forcibly relocate an entire Ayllu, or a part of one, to a completely different region of the empire. This was done for several reasons. Loyal communities might be moved to a newly conquered, rebellious area to pacify it and teach the locals the Inca way. Conversely, a rebellious community from that region might be broken up and moved to a loyal, established part of the empire where they could be more easily controlled. It was a massive, state-sponsored program of resettlement. You hear stories of Mita. Perhaps a family in a neighboring village came from the coastal deserts, and they still remember how to fish, even though they now live in the mountains. This system, while harsh for the people being moved, was incredibly effective at homogenizing the empire, spreading the Quechua language, and breaking down old tribal loyalties. As you stand on the edge of the construction project, watching the stones being set into place, you begin to understand. Your life is not entirely your own. You belong to your family, to your Ayllu, and ultimately, to the Sapa Inca. Your future will involve periods of service to this larger entity. The Mita is the price of living in the Inca world, the tribute you pay for the security, the order, and the full storehouses that the empire provides. It is a lesson in duty that is slowly but surely being etched into your understanding of the world. In the daily life of your Ayllu, you become aware of a particular plant that is treated with a respect bordering on reverence. It is not a food crop, and it is not used for building or clothing. It is the coca plant. You see the adults, especially the men, with a small pouch, a chew spur, slung over their shoulder. Throughout the day, particularly during strenuous work, they will take out a few dried leaves from the pouch. They will add a tiny sliver of lime or ash from another small container, the tapuro, and tuck the resulting wad, or ecolacio, into their cheek. As a child, you are strictly forbidden from touching it. This is not a casual snack. It is a substance for adults, imbued with social and spiritual significance. You watch your father as he works the fields with his foot plow. After a few hours of hard labor, he will stop, take out his coca leaf, then chew. He does not get high or intoxicated. Instead, a kind of calm endurance settles over him. The coca alleviates his fatigue, dulls the ache in his muscles, and sharpens his focus. In the thin, oxygen pool rare of the Andes, coca is a key that unlocks human potential, allowing people to work longer and harder than would otherwise be possible. You learn that coca is a social lubricant, a gesture of goodwill. When men from your village meet men from another Ayllu on the road, the first thing they do is exchange a few coca leaves from their pouches. It is a sign of mutual respect, like a handshake and an offer of a cup of coffee rolled into one. To refuse an offer of coca would be a grave insult, but its importance goes far beyond the practical and social. Coca is fundamentally sacred. It is the one thing you can offer to any god, spirit, or ancestor. Before the men begin their work in the fields, they will select 3 perfect leaves, akin to, and blow on them, whispering a prayer to the Pachama and the mountain spirits, the Apus, before placing the leaves on the ground as an offering. When someone is sick, a shaman, or Chua Mary, will chew coca leaves and read the patterns in the leaf juice to diagnose the illness. When a baby is born, a few leaves might be burned to bless the child. When someone dies, coca leaves are placed in their mouth to sustain them on their journey to the next world. A curious detail about coca is its highly controlled production. It does not grow in the high Andes where you live. It can only be cultivated in the warm, humid foothills of the eastern Andes, the Yame. These coca-growing regions were considered so valuable that they were often controlled directly by the Inca state. The coca leaves you see in your village are not grown locally. They are imported, distributed through the vast and efficient state-run network. This control over the coca supply was another way the Inca state maintained its power. The historical understanding of coca has been deeply, and tragically, colored by its modern derivative, cocaine. Spanish conquistadors were initially suspicious of coca, viewing it as a pagan ritual. However, they quickly realized that without it, the native population they had forced to work in the silver mines could not function. So they grudgingly allowed, and even facilitated, its use. For centuries, Western observers saw it as a vice, a sign of backwardness. It is only in more recent decades that anthropologists and historians have come to understand coca in its original context, as a mild stimulant with profound cultural and religious importance, completely distinct from the destructive drug it was later used to create. The debate continues, however, on the health effects of long-term, daily coca chewing, with scholars examining archaeological remains for evidence. You, as a child, only know that it is powerful and that it is not for you. You might ask your father what it tastes like. He might tell you it is bitter at first, but then a numbness spreads through your mouth, and a warmth spreads through your body. He will tell you that you will understand when you are a man, when you have to face a full day of labor in the fields, or a long journey on the Inca road. For now, you just watch. You see the small green leaves passed between hands, tucked into cheeks, and placed reverently on stone altars. You smell its unique, earthy scent when it is burned as an offering. You learn that some things in your world are gateways, connecting the physical realm of work and exhaustion to the spiritual realm of gods and endurance. Coca is one of those gateways, and you learn that access to such power is a privilege of adulthood, something to be earned, not taken lightly. Life in your Ayllu is usually predictable, governed by the seasons and the agricultural calendar. But every so often, a different kind of authority makes its presence felt. A ripple of anticipation and anxiety passes through the village. The eyes and ears of the Inca are coming. These are the imperial officials, the bureaucrats and inspectors, sent out from the regional capital, or even from the great city of Cusco itself, to ensure the emperor's realm is running smoothly. You might see them coming from a distance, a small, important-looking procession moving along the Inca road that runs near your village. They are not walking alone. They are carried on litters by attendants, a clear sign of their high status, or they walk with an air of purpose that sets them apart from common travelers. They wear finer textiles than you have ever seen, dyed in brilliant colors and covered in the geometric to keep you patterns that signify their rank and function. When they arrive in your village, your local leader, the Teyuaraka, goes out to greet them with a great show of respect. He bows, offers them the best food and chicha your community can provide, and pledges the Ayllus loyalty to the Sepa Inca. These officials have several critical tasks. One of the most important is conducting the census. The Inca Empire was obsessed with data. They needed to know how many people lived in each Ayllu, how many were men of tribute-paying age, how many were children, and how many were elderly. 2 officials might go from hut to hut, while your Teyuaraka calls out the names of the families. They do not have clipboards or paper. They have the quipyu. You watch in fascination as one official, the quipyu CMAOC or quipyu keeper, records the information. The quipyu is a complex assembly of knotted strings. A main cord holds many smaller, colored strings. The color of the string, the type of knot used, a single knot, a figure-8 knot, a long knot, and the knot's position on the string all represent a piece of data. It is a sophisticated, 3-dimensional system of information storage. The official calls out numbers: 3 boys under 5, 2 unmarried girls of weaving age, and the quipyu MAOC quickly ties knots, his fingers a blur of motion. He is encoding your existence onto a string. Another official has the job of inspecting the communal storehouses, the LQA. These are sturdy, well-ventilated stone buildings where the Ayllus surplus is kept. This includes the portion of the harvest that belongs to the state and the portion that belongs to the state religion, as well as emergency supplies for the community itself. The official checks the inventory, making sure the potatoes are not rotting, the quinoa is dry, and the stores match the records on his own quipyu. He's making sure your Ayllu is meeting its quotas and that it can survive a bad harvest. A strange but important detail of this inspection process was its ritual component. The officials were not just accountants. They were representatives of a divine emperor. Their visit was often accompanied by religious ceremonies, offerings to the local duques, and public pronouncements that reinforced the ideology of the state. The message was clear. Your obedience and productivity are not just a civic duty, but a religious one. The level of direct oversight the central government had over a remote Ayllu like yours is a topic of much discussion among historians. Was this micromanagement a reality for every single village in the empire? Or was it more of an ideal, with most day-to-day governance left in the hands of the local Teyuaraka, who acted as a crucial intermediary between the state and the people? The likely answer is that the intensity of oversight varied. An Ayllu, located on a strategic road or in a rich mining district, would have seen officials far more frequently than a remote community high in the mountains. The officials might also act as judges. If there was a land dispute between your Ayllu and a neighboring one that couldn't be resolved locally, these imperial representatives would hear the case and make a binding judgment. Their authority was absolute. After a day or 2, the visit is over. The officials and their retinue pack up their quipus and their fine textiles and move on to the next village, a mobile node in the vast network of imperial control. A collective sigh of relief might pass through your community. The inspection is over. You passed. For you, this event is a powerful lesson in political science. You learn that your small village is part of something immense. You learn that your life is not just your own business, but a data point in the emperor's grand calculation. The eyes of the Inca see everything, and this knowledge fosters a deep-seated sense of order, discipline, and a feeling that you are a small, but essential, cog in a machine so vast you can barely comprehend it. Time passes, marked by the cycles of planting and harvesting. You are no longer a child, but a young woman on the cusp of adulthood. This transition, for a girl, is marked by a private, yet profoundly important ceremony called the Kichikakuyas. It happens shortly after your first menstruation, signaling to your community that you are now a woman, ready for the responsibilities of marriage and family. Unlike the public celebration of the Rutokushiki in your infancy, the initial part of this rite is solitary. For 3 days, you are confined to your family as hut. You fast, eating only a small amount of raw maize and drinking only water. This is a period of purification, a cleansing of your childhood self to prepare for your new status. You are not allowed to wash or to touch your own face. You remain in seclusion, contemplating the change that has come upon you. It is a quiet, introspective time, a stark contrast to the constant communal activity of your daily life. On the 4th day, your mother comes to you. She leads you to a stream to wash. She braids your hair in anew, adult style, and gives you a new set of fine clothes that you and she have been weaving for this very occasion. She also gives you a new name, a permanent name that you will carry for the rest of your life. Your childhood name, Little Puma or Morning Star, is shared along with your girlhood. Your new name might be something like Ayllu or Kore, names that carry weight and history. Then, the celebration begins. Your family and all the relatives of your Ayllu gather. A feast has been prepared. You are formally presented to the community in your new attire, with your new name. You are no longer just a girl who helps with the weaving. You are a marriageable woman, a potential wife and mother, a future contributor to the continuity of Ayllu. Your male relatives, your uncles and brothers, come forward to offer you gifts. These are not toys or trinkets. They are practical, valuable items that you will need to set up your own household, fine blankets, pottery, or perhaps tools for farming. These gifts are a recognition of your new status and a collective investment in your future family. A strange and specific detail recorded by some chroniclers about this ceremony is the advice given to the young woman. The elder women of the Ayllu would take you aside and give you very direct, practical instruction on how to be a good Inca wife. This was not just about weaving and cooking. It was about obedience to your future husband, the importance of hard work, and the duty to bear healthy children for the empire. The advice was unsentimental and focused on the core values of Inca society: productivity, duty, and submission to the social order. After the feast and the gift-giving, there is dancing and drinking of chicha. It is a joyous occasion, celebrating not just you, but the strength and future of the community. You are a symbol of that future. Historians debate the uniformity of this ceremony across the empire. It was almost certainly practiced by the elite in Cusco. But how did it manifest in a rural Ayllu like yours? Was the fasting period as strict? Were the gifts as lavish? The details were likely adapted to local customs and resources, but the core purpose remained the same: to manage and ritualize the transition of a girl into a woman, making a biological event into a structured, social one. This control over life's passages was a hallmark of the Inca worldview. For you, the Kichikoyos is a moment of profound change. You feel a new sense of dignity and importance. The boys who were your childhood playmates now look at you differently. The adults treat you with a new level of respect. You are given more responsibility in the household, and your opinion might be sought on matters of weaving or food preparation. But there is also a new weight of expectation on your shoulders. Your life is no longer just about learning skills. It is about preparing for a role that has been predefined for you for generations. Your future will likely be decided not by your own heart, but by the needs of your family and your community. The Kichikoyas is your graduation ceremony. You have completed the long apprenticeship of an Inca girl. You are now ready for the duties and obligations of womanhood, a life of hard work, skill, and service to the collective. The rhythm of your life has changed, and you are expected to weave your own thread into the great textile of your people. While your sister's transition into adulthood is a relatively private and family-oriented affair, yours, as a boy, is a demanding, public, and intensely physical ordeal. You are now around 14 years old, and you must face the War Ichikui ceremony. This is not just a rite of passage. It is a grueling test of endurance, courage, and discipline, designed to prove you are worthy of being called a man and a warrior of the Inca state. For the sons of the elite in Cusco, the War Ichikui was a month-long festival of epic proportions, involving elaborate rituals and brutal tests. For you, in your rural Ayllu, it is a scaled-down but no less serious version of the same trial. It begins with a pilgrimage. You and the other boys of your age group, led by the older men of the village, ascend to a sacred mountain peak, a powerful Ayllu that watches over your community. Here, you will spend several days fasting, praying, and preparing for the trials to come. The first test is a race. From the high mountain, you must race down the steep, treacherous slopes back to the village. It is not just a test of speed, but of agility and stamina in the thin mountain air. You run with all your might, your lungs burning, your legs straining. To fall behind is a mark of shame. You must prove your physical prowess. What follows is a series of mock battles and physical contests. You are pitted against your peers, armed with simple weapons. The fighting is real enough to be painful, testing your courage and your ability to withstand blows without complaint. You might have to endure a lashing from the elders, a test of your ability to bear pain in silence. Crying out or showing fear would mean disgrace. One of the most important trials is a long period of guard duty. For a full day and night, you might be tasked with guarding a sacred object or a symbolic post, standing at attention, sleepless and vigilant. You must fight off exhaustion, hunger, and the biting cold of the Andean night. This tests not your strength, but your discipline and your sense of duty. A particularly strange and lesser-known part of the elite war Ichikui in Cusco, which might have had echoes in your local ceremony, was the weaving test. The boys were required to demonstrate that they could weave a swinging stitch, their own sandals. This was not women's work. It was a test of a warrior's self-sufficiency. A man who could not make or mend his own essential gear was not fit for military service. It is a perfect example of the Inca emphasis on practical skills for everyone. Throughout this entire period, you are under the constant scrutiny of the community as elders. They watch your every move, judging your performance. They are not looking for the strongest or the fastest boy, necessarily. They are looking for the boy who displays the most courage, the most discipline, and the strongest spirit. Finally, after the trials are over, the successful candidates gather for the main event. You are brought before the Aka and the elders. Your ears, which were pierced in a preliminary ceremony, are now adorned with the large earplugs that are the mark of Inca nobility and manhood. In Cusco, these plugs would be made of gold for the highest elite. Yours might be made of wood or bone, but the symbolism is the same. Then comes the central act from which the ceremony gets its name. You are given your wore, a loincloth. This is the garment of a man. The elders help you put it on, a symbolic act of dressing you for your new role in society. You are also given your adult weapons, a proper mason shield, and a new, permanent name, just as your sister received. The historical debate around the War Ichikui centers on its purpose. Was it primarily a military initiation, designed to weed out the weak and identify future soldiers and leaders? Or was it more of a social and religious ceremony, a piece of political theater designed to reinforce the power of the state and the elite? The answer is that it was unequivocally both. By making the transition to manhood a state-sanctioned ordeal, the Incas ensured that every man felt a direct, personal allegiance to the imperial system and its values of strength, discipline, and duty. The ceremony concludes with a great feast and celebration. You have survived. You have proven your worth. You walk through the village, proud and sore, your new loincloth a badge of honor. You have endured pain, hunger, and fear, and you have not broken. You are no longer a boy who follows his father in the fields. You are a man, ready to take your place as a worker, a warrior, and a future head of a household in the mighty Inca Empire. You have passed your rite of passage and are now considered an adult in your Ayllu. Your life is set on a predictable path, farming, serving your Mita turn, and eventually starting a family. But for a moment, let us imagine a different life. What if you had not been born a commoner in a rural village? What if, by a stroke of fate, you were the son of a high-ranking noble, or even a regional Kayuraka? Your childhood and adolescence would have been profoundly different. You would have been sent to school. For the children of the elite, both the ethnic Inca nobility from Cusco and the sons of conquered lords who were brought into the imperial system, there was a formal education system. The school was called the Yashe was I, which translates to the House of Knowledge or House of Teaching. It was located in the capital city of Cusco, near the main plaza, and was exclusively for boys. Instead of spending your youth chasing birds and learning to use a foot plow, you would have been sent to Cusco around the age of 13. You would leave your family and your home province to live in the imperial capital, a glittering city of stone palaces and golden temples that would have dazzled your provincial eyes. The teachers at the Yashe was I were the Mauts, or wise men. These were the most learned individuals in the empire, historians, philosophers, poets, and priests. They were the keepers of the official state narrative and the complex body of knowledge required to run a vast empire. Your education would last for about 4 years, and it would be rigorous. What would you study? The curriculum was practical and ideological, designed to create a loyal and competent ruling class. First and foremost, you would learn the official language of the state, the courtly dialect of Quechua spoken in Cusco. Even if you already spoke a regional version of the language, you would be taught the proper, high-status pronunciation and vocabulary. This linguistic unity was crucial for imperial administration. Next, you would receive a deep and thorough education in Inca religion. You would learn the complex cosmology, the hierarchy of the gods, the details of the ritual calendar, and the correct way to perform sacrifices and offerings. This was not just theology, it was political science. The Sapa Inca's authority was derived from his divine descent from the sun god Inti, so understanding religion was essential to understanding the basis of imperial power. You would also study history, or rather, the official, state's ancient version of it. The Mauts would teach you the glorious, and likely heavily edited, story of the Inca conquests. You would memorize the genealogies of the Inca rulers, learning of their heroic deeds. The histories of your own people, if you were from a conquered land, would be erased or reframed to fit into the grand Inca narrative of benevolent conquest and civilizing mission. And then there was the most complex subject, the Quipyu. While a local official might know how to record simple census data, you would be trained as a high-level Quipyu Maoc. You would learn to read and create quipas that recorded not just numbers, but potentially historical narratives, laws, and the intricate details of the empire's tribute and redistribution system. This was the Inca equivalent of learning to read, write, and do advanced accounting all at once. The full extent of what could be encoded in a Quipyu is still a major point of contention among scholars. The theory that they contained narrative information, a true form of writing, is tantalizing but remains unproven, as the ability to read them was completely lost after the Spanish conquest. This lost knowledge is one of the great intellectual tragedies of the Americas. A little-known and fascinating part of this education was its emphasis on law and leadership. You would learn the specific laws of the empire and how to apply them. You would be trained in public speaking, in how to command authority, and in the principles of Inca governance. What about the girls? There was no equivalent yashe was I for noble women. However, a select group of girls, the most beautiful and skilled from across the empire, were chosen to become Makuil Lokuna, the chosen women. They were taken to a convent-like institution called the Aql Lawsai, House of the Chosen Women. Here, they were not educated in governance, but were trained to become supreme masters of the textile arts and brewers of the finest chicha for religious ceremonies. Some would become priestesses. Others would be given as wives to the Sapa Inca or to high-ranking nobles as a political favor. Theirs was a life of privilege and honor, but also of complete subservience to the state. At the end of your 4 years at the Yashe was I, you would undergo the grueling War H Shikui ceremony with the other noble boys, a far more elaborate and high-stakes version than the one in your village. If you passed, you would be ready to take your place in the imperial bureaucracy, as a governor, a military commander, a priest, or a judge. You would be one of the elite, one of the few who understood how the empire truly worked, and one of the privileged few tasked with keeping its complex machinery running. Whether you were educated in the Yashe was I or on the farm, you are now a young adult, and the community has one primary expectation for you: get married and start a family. But this is not a decision you will be making based on love or personal attraction. In the highly organized world of the Inca Empire, marriage was far too important to be left to the whims of young people. It was a social and economic arrangement, managed by your family and, in many cases, by the state itself. For a commoner like you, the process is rooted in the Ayllu. Your parents, in consultation with the community elders, will identify a suitable partner for you. The ideal match is usually from within your own Ayllu, or perhaps a neighboring one. This kept land and labor resources within the community. The main considerations are practical. Is the young woman a skilled weaver and a hard worker? Is the young man a strong farmer and from a respectable family? The emotional compatibility of the prospective couple is a secondary concern. At best, the assumption is that affection and partnership will grow from a foundation of shared work and mutual respect, not the other way around. There is a period of trial marriage that was common in many Andean communities, a practice called Servanakui or Tingpunakuy. This is a concept that utterly scandalized the Spanish priests. After an engagement was agreed upon by the families, the young man and woman would live together for a period of time, sometimes up to a year. This was a pragmatic test run. They would work together, share a home, and see if they could function as a productive unit. If the arrangement worked well, the marriage would be made permanent. If it did not, if they were constantly arguing or lazy, the arrangement could be dissolved without social stigma, and they would both be free to try again with someone else. The final marriage ceremony itself is simple. There is no elaborate religious ritual. The couple simply appears before the Kayuaraka or a visiting imperial official. They hold hands, declare their intention to be married, and the official recognizes them as a new family unit. The most important part of the ceremony is the exchange of gifts. The groom gives the bride a pair of sandals made by his own hands, and the bride gives the groom a fine woolen shirt she has woven. This exchange symbolizes their new, intertwined roles and responsibilities. After this, the whole community celebrates with a feast. A fascinating and highly debated aspect of Inca marriage was the state's direct role in it. According to some chronicles, in certain regions or at certain times, the state took a very hands-on approach. An Inca official would line up all the marriageable aged men and women in the village plaza. He would then proceed to assign partners, publicly declaring, "You shall marry her, and you shall marry him." This has been called the annual marriage market. Historians are deeply divided on how widespread or literal this practice was. Was it a regular event in every village? A stark example of the state's totalitarian control over individual lives? Or was it an exaggeration by the Spanish, who were prone to emphasizing the exotic and tyrannical aspects of Inca rule? A more moderate view is that this kind of direct state intervention probably only happened in specific circumstances, such as in newly resettled MITM, Makukuna communities where social bonds were weakened. The state needed to quickly establish stable family units. In a long-established Ayllu like yours, the choices were more likely made at the local level, with the state officials simply giving the final, formal approval. Regardless of how your partner is chosen, the consequences of marriage are immediate and profound. As a married couple, you are now considered a full, tax-paying household. You are no longer part of your parents' household unit in the eyes of the state census. This means you are now officially on the Mita roster. You are a full adult, with all the rights and heavy obligations that entails. Your new life begins. You might build a new hut, or move into one provided by the community. And you receive the most important thing of all, a plot of land. Your journey from a swaddled baby in an earthen pit to a contributing member of a new family is complete. You are now a foundational block of the empire, and the cycle of life, work, and duty is ready to begin anew with you at its center. The moment you and your new spouse are recognized as a household, the community provides you with the essential foundation for your life. Land. You do not own this land in the modern sense of a deed in private property. The land ultimately belongs to the Sepe Inca, who entrusts it to the Ayllu, which in turn allocates it to its member families. What you receive is the right to cultivate a plot of land for your sustenance. This plot is called a TUPU. The allocation of the TUPU is a remarkable system of social welfare, designed to ensure that every family had the means to feed itself. The size of your TUPU was not fixed. It was based on need. A newly married couple would receive one standard TUPU for the husband and a half TUPU for the wife. When you have a son, your household would be granted another full TUPU. When you have a daughter, you would receive another half TUPU. If someone in your family died, their portion of the land would revert back to the Ayllu to be reallocated to another family in need. This system was fluid and redistributive. Every year or two, the Ayllu leadership, under the watchful eye of the KU Aroka, would remeasure and reassign the tiapos based on the changing sizes of the families. This prevented any single family from accumulating vast amounts of land and ensured that no one would be left landless. It was a safety net woven into the very soil of the community. Your TUPU is not likely a single, contiguous field. Instead, you would be assigned several small plots in different parts of the Ayllu's territory. You might have a small potato patch high on a cool, moist slope, a plot for growing quinoa on a mid-level terrace, and a share of a maize field in a warmer, more sheltered valley. This was a brilliant strategy of risk diversification. If a localized frost destroyed your high-altitude potatoes, your maize in the valley might still survive. If a pest attacked the quinoa, your other crops would be safe. It was agricultural insurance, Inca style. Now, your real work begins. The skills you learned as a child and adolescent must be put into practice on your own land. You and your spouse work your TUPU together. You, the husband, break the ground with the Chokideqla. Your wife follows behind, planting the seeds. Together, you weed the fields, maintain the irrigation ditches that water your crops, and pray to the pajama for a good harvest. But your labor is not just for yourself. The entire agricultural land of the Ayllu was conceptually divided into 3 parts. The first part was the land for the Ayllu members themselves, your tiapos. The second was the land of the Inca, or the state land. The third was the land of the sun, or the church land. You and everyone else in the Ayllu were obligated to work all 3. The harvest from the state and church lands went into the communal storehouses to feed the army, the bureaucracy, the priests, and to support the empire's projects. A little-known and clever aspect of this system was the order of work. The fields of the gods, the sun, were often worked first. accompanied by great ceremony and festivity. Then, the fields of the common people were. Finally, the fields of the Inca state were cultivated. This order reinforced the ideological message. Your religious duties came first, followed by your own needs, and then your obligation to the state. The exact ratio of these three types of land is a subject of historical debate. The Spanish chroniclers gave idealized, often contradictory, accounts. It likely varied greatly depending on the region's fertility and strategic importance. In a fertile valley near Cusco, the state and church lands might have been vast, while in a remote, marginal area, most of the land would have been allocated to the local people for their own subsistence. The system was adaptable. Receiving your TUPU is the final step in your integration into the community. It is a tangible symbol of your belonging and your responsibility. It is the piece of pachalma that has been entrusted to your care. Your life will now be measured by the seasons, your success determined by the yield of this small piece of earth. You are no longer just a child of the Ayllu. You are a root, firmly planted in its soil, responsible for drawing sustenance from it for your own family and contributing your share to the vast organism of the empire. Your identity is now tied to this land, this small but vital inheritance that is not truly yours, but which you hold in trust for the generations to come. Your Ayllu feels like the center of the world, a self-contained universe of mountains, fields, and trembly. But every now and then, you are reminded that you are part of something unimaginably larger. This reminder often comes in the form of a fleeting, powerful image, a young man, running. Here's a chores key, one of the legendary messengers of the Inca Empire. You might be working in your TUPU on a high terrace when you see him, a distant figure moving at an incredible pace along the Qhapaknan, the great Inca road that snakes through the mountains. He carries no weapon, only a small pouch for his coca leaves, a quipu slung over his shoulder, and a conch shell trumpet called a puchu-tiu. He runs with a light, rhythmic gait, his body conditioned for speed and endurance in the thin air. The chores were the nervous system of the empire. They operated in a highly organized relay system, all along the 25 miles of the Inca Road. Small messenger stations, or chores were built every mile or two. Each station housed a few chores, who were chosen from the local communities for their speed and reliability. They were on duty, waiting. When a running chores approached a station, he would blow his putu to announce his arrival. A fresh runner would emerge from the station and run alongside him for a short distance. In these few moments, the message was passed. If it was an oral message, it was repeated until the new runner had it memorized perfectly. If it was a physical object, like a kutyo, it was handed over. The new runner would then sprint to the next station, and the exhausted runner would rest, beat, and prepare for his next turn. This system was astonishingly efficient. It is said that a message could travel from Cusco to Quito, a distance of over 200 miles, in about a week. The Sape Inca, in his palace in Cusco, could eat fresh fish from the Pacific coast, over 300 miles away, delivered by a continuous relay of chores in under 2 days. This was faster than any message could travel in Europe at the time, where messengers on horseback were hampered by poor roads and political borders. As a child, you and your friends might have dreamed of being a chores key. It was a position of honor and great responsibility. You had to be not only fast, but also utterly trustworthy. The messages you carried could be state secrets, military commands, or urgent news for the emperor. To fail in your duty, to be slow or to misremember a message, would result in severe punishment. A weird and wonderful detail about the chores is what they were trained to remember. Since the Incas had no written language, the accuracy of all messages was paramount. Young chores were trained in mnemonic techniques to memorize long and complex messages without error. It is said they could pass on hundreds of words of information with perfect fidelity. The quipu they carried helped, as it could convey complex numerical data, but the details often had to be memorized. The historical reality of the chores key system is well documented, but there are still points of academic discussion. How were they recruited? Were they part of a family's Mita obligation, or was it a specialized, permanent profession? Evidence suggests it may have been a form of Mita service for young, athletic men, a tour of duty they would serve for a period of time before returning to their communities. It was a vital role, but perhaps not a lifelong career for most. Watching a chores key flash past is a moment of awe. He is a living link in a chain that connects your remote village to the heart of the empire. The quipu he carries might contain census data from the next valley over, or it could hold a command that will send your father on a Mita assignment to a distant land. The chores key is the physical embodiment of the Sapa Inca's will, the swift and silent force that binds the four quarters of the Tawant Insuya together. He disappears around a bend in the road as quickly as he appeared. The world returns to the familiar rhythm of the wind and the work of your own hands. But the image remains. The running man is a reminder that your quiet life is watched over, managed, and connected by a power that moves with the speed of a sprinting athlete, a power that could reach you at any time, from anywhere in the vast and formidable Inca Empire. You are now a full-fledged adult, with your own home and your own plot of land. One day, your neighbor, whose potato harvest was poor this year, comes to you for help. His family is running low on food. What do you do? The answer is so deeply ingrained in you that it is not even a question. You help him. You give him a portion of your own stored potatoes, enough to get his family through. You do this without expecting immediate payment, because you are living by the most fundamental rule of Indian society. Nai is a Quechua word that is often translated as reciprocity, but that simple word does not capture its full meaning. It is the core principle of mutual help and cooperation that underpins your entire social world. It is the idea that today is for you, and tomorrow is for me. It is a constant, flowing exchange of labor and goods based on a deep sense of shared fate. You have been practicing Aina your whole life, even if you did not know the word for it. When the women of the Ayllu gathered to spin thread together, that was a form of Aina, sharing company and skill. When the men lined up to till a field with their foot plows, that was Aina in action, pooling their strength for a common goal. Now, as a head of household, you engage in Aina in a more formal way. Let us say it is time to repair the thatched roof on your hut before the rainy season begins. This is a big job for a way to do alone, so you call on your relatives and neighbors for help. They come, and for a day, everyone works together to strip the old thatch and lay a new, thick layer. You, in return, provide the food and chicha for everyone who helped. This is called a minka, a communal work party. You are not paying them for their labor. The payment is the understanding that when your neighbor needs a new roof, you will be there for him. No questions asked. This system is your social security, your insurance policy, and your bank, all rolled into one. If you get sick and cannot harvest your TUPU, your relatives will harvest it for you. If a rock slide damages your terrace wall, the community will come together to rebuild it. This web of mutual obligation ensures that no single family has to face hardship alone. The success and survival of the individual household is inextricably linked to the success and survival of the whole Ayllu. A fascinating and less obvious form of Aina related to the state itself. The Mita labor tax can be seen as a form of large-scale, institutionalized Aina. You give your labor to the state. In return, the state provides you with security from enemies, maintains the roads and irrigation systems, and, most importantly, provides food from its massive storehouses in times of widespread famine. It was a grand bargain, a reciprocal relationship between the ruler and the ruled. The Sapa Inca provides for his people, and the people provide for the Sapa Inca. Of course, historians debate how balanced this reciprocity truly was. Was the labor extracted by the state truly proportional to the benefits it provided? Or was it an exploitative system dressed up in the language of mutual obligation? The Spanish, upon their arrival, certainly saw the potential of the system. They kept the Mita in place but stripped it of its reciprocal obligations, turning it into a brutal system of forced labor, particularly in the silver mines of Potosi, where millions of indigenous people would perish. This brutal colonial version of the Mita has, for centuries, cast a dark shadow over our understanding of the original Inca system. Reconstructing the pre-conquest reality, with its complex balance of obligation and benefit, remains a challenge for scholars. For you, in your daily life, Ayllu is not an abstract concept. It is a lived reality. It is the reason you can sleep at night, knowing that if disaster strikes, you will not be abandoned. It fosters a powerful sense of community cohesion. You are not in competition with your neighbors. You are in cooperation with them. Your neighbor's well-being is directly tied to your own. This philosophy is the opposite of a hyper-individualistic worldview. It is the cultural DNA that has allowed people to thrive for centuries in the harsh but beautiful Andean environment. It was taught to you not through lectures, but through the simple, repeated acts of giving and receiving that have defined your life since you were a child. Ayllu is the invisible thread that weaves your individual life into the strong, resilient fabric of the Ayllu. You live your life according to the rules of your Ayllu and the rhythms of the land. You obey the local Aka and respect the visiting officials. But towering above them all, in a distant city you will almost certainly never see, is the ultimate authority figure in your world, the Super Inca, the unique Inca, the Emperor. Who is this man to you? He is not just a king or a ruler in a political sense. He is a god on earth. You have been taught since you were a child, in the stories told around the fire, that he is a direct descendant of Inti, the sun god. He is the divine son of the sun, and his wife, the Crowway, is his sister, descended from the moon. This divine lineage makes his authority absolute and unquestionable. He is, in a very real sense, the father of all his people. Your own father is the head of your household, but the Super Inca is the father of the entire empire. This is not just a metaphor. The state ideology promotes this relationship. The land you work belongs to him. The llamas you herd belong to him. Even your own labor, during your Mita turn, belongs to him. In return for your loyalty and your work, he, like a good father, provides for you. He ensures the storehouses are full, the roads are safe, and the cosmos is kept in order through the correct performance of religious rituals. You will likely never see him. His presence is felt through his proxies, the officials, the army, and the infrastructure he commands. The Super Inca himself lives in almost unimaginable splendor in Cusco. His palace is said to be made of the finest stonework, with walls sheathed in gold. He eats from golden plates, is carried on a golden litter, and wears clothes made from the most exquisite vicuna wool, so fine that they are almost ethereal. He is said to wear an outfit only once before having it ceremonial burned. His daily life is a series of complex rituals. Everything he touches is considered sacred and must be collected and stored away, never to be touched by a lesser mortal. When he speaks, he often does so from behind a screen, as his divine presence is too powerful for an ordinary person to behold directly. A bizarre and fascinating detail of this divine kingship relates to what happened when a Super Inca died. He did not really die. His body was carefully mummified, and he was believed to continue living, just in a different state. His mummy, Ramal Xi, continued to own all the palaces, lands, and servants he had possessed in life. The mummy would be brought out for major ceremonies, dressed in fine clothes, consulted on important matters, with a priest speaking for him, and even fed with burnt offerings of food and chicha. This created a peculiar problem for each new Sapa Inca. Since his deceased father, and grandfather, and great-grandfather still owned all the wealth of their reigns, the new emperor had to acquire his own. This is one of the theories historians propose for the explosive expansion of the Inca Empire. Each new Sapa Inca had a powerful incentive to conquer new lands and new peoples, as this was the only way for him to build his own estate and secure his own legacy in life after death. This split inheritance theory, however, is still debated. Some scholars argue it oversimplifies the complex economic and political reasons for Inca expansionism. To you, in your village, these details of courtly life are the stuff of legend. What you know is that the Sapa Inca's well-being is directly linked to your own. Priests in your village make daily offerings on his behalf. When there is a drought or an earthquake, it is believed to be a sign that the cosmic balance is disturbed, and the Sapa Inca must perform powerful ceremonies in Cusco to set things right. His health is the health of the empire. His image is everywhere, even in his absence. The fine come-by cloth produced by the Ayllu Lacuna often bears his royal insignia. The state storehouses are his storehouses. The Inca road is his road. He is the single, unifying focal point of your vast and diverse world. You may identify as a member of your Ayllu first, but your identity as a subject of the tall wanton Suyu comes from your shared allegiance to this distant, divine, and all-powerful father figure. Your life of hard work and duty is, in the end, an act of service to him, and through him, to the sun itself. You live in a world of immense complexity. The empire manages the lives of millions of people across a vast unrugged territory. It organizes massive labor projects, maintains thousands of miles of roads, and redistributes goods from one end of the Andes to the other. Yet as you look around your village, you notice something is missing, something that seems essential for such a feat of administration. There is no writing. You have no books, no scrolls, no letters. The laws of the empire are not written down. The epic histories of the Sapa Incas are not recorded in texts. Your own birth and marriage are not noted in a registry book. How can a civilization of this scale and sophistication function without a written script? The answer lies in the strange and beautiful object you sometimes see in the hands of the K. You are Aka or the visiting officials, the Quipu. You have seen the Quipu from a distance since you were a child. It is an assemblage of colored strings, hanging from a primary cord like a fringe. The strings are dotted with a variety of knots. To you, it is a mysterious and potent symbol of authority. To the trained Quipu CMAOC, it is a precise and versatile information storage device. The primary function of the Quipu, which is well understood by scholars, was for accounting. The Incas used a decimal system, based in, and the Quipu was a perfect tool for it. The position of a knot on a string indicated its decimal value. Knots at the very bottom represented the ones place, 1 to 9. The knots just above were the tens place, then the hundreds, and so on, up to the thousands or even 10,000s. The type of knot, a simple single knot or a more complex long knot, indicated the specific number in that place value. The colors of the strings were also significant. A yellow string might represent maize, while a white string could represent silver, and a brown string, potatoes. A Quipu CMAOC could look at a Quipu and read, "The storehouse in this village contains 257 units of maize, 100 units of potatoes, and 32 units of freeze-dried churnel." They could record census data, tribute obligations, and military logistics with stunning accuracy. It was a physical spreadsheet, an abacus and a ledger all in one. But here is where one of the greatest mysteries of Andean archaeology begins. Could the Quipu do more than just record numbers? Was it a true three-dimensional writing system, capable of recording non-numerical information like stories, laws, and genealogies? This is the central, passionate debate among Quipu experts. The evidence for this narrative Quipu theory is tantalizing but circumstantial. Spanish chroniclers wrote that the Incas read their histories from the knotted cords. Some quipas seem to have a binary structure, with knots tied in different directions or strings spun with different twists, which some scholars, like the late Harvard professor Gary Ayrton, have argued could represent a kind of binary code, similar to the 0 seconds and 1 second of computer language. The idea is that combinations of color, twist, and knot type could have represented syllables, words, or concepts. If this theory is correct, it would mean the Quipu is a unique form of writing, completely unlike any other script developed in human history. It would be a tactile, haptic script, where information is encoded not just visually, but through touch and structure. Opponents of the theory argue that there is no definitive proof. No Rosetta Stone for the Quipu has ever been found to allow us to translate a narrative. They suggest that the Quipu was always a mnemonic device, a powerful memory aid for a trained oral historian, but not a system that could be read by someone who did not already know the story it represented. The Quipu could provide the numbers and the structure, but the narrative itself lived in the memory of the Quipu CAMAOC. For you, in your village, the debate is academic. You only know that the Quipu holds power. It contains the data that defines your life, the size of your family, the amount of land you farm, the tribute you owe. It is the tool that allows a distant and unseen government to know you, to manage you, and to integrate your small life into its grand imperial project. The secret of the Quipu is the secret of the empire's power, the ability to organize and control a vast population without a single written word. The knotted strings hold your world together. Years have turned into decades. The sun has risen and set over the sacred peaks thousands of times. Your back is now bent from a lifetime of working at TUPU. Your hands are gnawed and stained with the soil of the Pachama. Your children are grown, with their own spouses and their own plots of land. You are now an elder of the Ayllu. You sit in the sun in the village plaza. Your own work now later. You watch the new generation of children, the 5-year-olds, chasing birds from the fields with their swings and their shouts. You see the young men, strong and proud, returning from their Mita service. You see the young women, their backstrap looms tied to the posts of their huts, their hands moving in the ancient rhythm of weaving. And you see the reflection of your own long life. You are a child of the Andes, and your entire existence has been shaped by the unique philosophy of your people. You were not raised by 2 parents, but by 100. Your first lesson was not the alphabet, but the importance of a shared harvest. Your worth was never measured by your individual ambition, but by your contribution to the collective good. You think back to your own beginning, the cold water bath that taught you resilience, the earthen pit that was your first cradle, the Rutakushiki ceremony, where every member of your community claimed a piece of you by cutting a lock of your hair. You were never taught that you were special or unique. You were taught that you were a part of something, a part of your family, a part of the Ayllu, a part of the great and orderly Tawantinsuyu. This collective upbringing has forged you. You feel a profound and unshakable sense of belonging. You are never truly alone, because the web of Ayllu connects you to everyone in your community. You know that if you fall, a dozen hands will be there to lift you up, just as you have lifted others. This security is the great gift of your culture, but it has come at a price. The concept of individual freedom, of choosing your own path, is utterly alien to you. Your life partner was chosen for you. Your career as a farmer was preordained. Your service to the state was mandatory. Your world is one of duty, obligation, and conformity. There is a deep comfort in this, but also a certain lack of personal agency that a person from another world might find suffocating. This very way of life is a subject of endless fascination and debate for people from the future. They will argue whether the Inca Empire was a benevolent socialist utopia or a totalitarian state that suppressed individuality. Was your collective upbringing a warm embrace or a crushing weight? The truth, is not that simple. It was both. It was a system that provided incredible security and social cohesion in a harsh environment, but it did so by subsuming the individual into the group. It was a grand, complex trade-off. A little-known aspect of becoming an elder in Inca society is the respect you are afforded. Once you are too old for heavy labor and Mita service, you are not cast aside. You enter a new age grade, the elderly. Your new duty is to advise, to teach, and to be a living repository of the community's knowledge. Your job is now to be the storyteller by the fire. You are the one who now tells the children about Viracocha and the sun god Inti. You are the one who teaches the young weavers the meaning of the ancient patterns. You explain the principles of Ayllu to the newly married couples. You have become the memory of your Ayllu. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows across the terraced fields, you feel a sense of peace. Your life has followed the proper path. You were born into the community. You served the community. And now, you are nurturing the community. You are one thread in a textile that has been woven for generations. You are a child of the Andes, and in the quiet strength and enduring order of your people, you have found your place in the cosmos. The fire in the plaza has burned low now, its embers glowing like a scattering of sleepy, crimson eyes. The stories have been told. The day's quiet hum has faded into a deeper silence, broken only by the soft whisper of the wind as it drifts down from the high peaks. The great, dark blanket of the Andean night is tucked in all around you, studded with stars so bright and close you feel as if you could reach out and touch them. You can feel the gentle, rhythmic breathing of the world around you, the deep sleep of the village, the quiet contentment of the llamas and their stone corrals, the slow, patient pulse of the earth beneath your sleeping mat. You are part of this rhythm now. Your own breath deepens, matching the slow, ancient cadence of the night. The sharp edges of your day, the memories of work and worry, all soften and dissolve into the peaceful darkness. Imagine yourself drifting, not in your own bed, but here, in this high, quiet place. The air is thin and pure, carrying the scent of cool stone and dry earth. You are safe. You are held. The great mountains, their peaks, stand guard around you, their massive shoulders silhouetted against the starlight, watching over you as you sleep. The entire community, your vast and timeless family, is dreaming alongside you. Let their collective peace be your own. Let go of the day, and sink gently into the deep, quiet, and restorative well of sleep. There is nothing more to do now, nothing more to be, just rest. The end of the article. Good night.